So today we're going to talk about the rules for adding integers. This is going to be a kind of an introduction. You're going to get the rules, and then you're going to be taking notes on videos of the two different methods to do this. So we have the chip model and we have the number line model, but I will explain that in other videos. So I want to encourage you, make sure you go ahead and write the titles down. So this one, adding integer rules. Then you want to make sure you go back and write it down in your table of contents, including the page numbers, whatever page numbers you're on at this point. It should be pretty close to 20 and 21 though. Alright, so I can add positive and negative integers. Go ahead and write down your learning target. If you need at any point in time during this video to stop and pause it and write things down, because I am going to move quickly, so you can stop it anytime you need to, and then when you're ready to move on, go ahead. So there are two different things you can do. You can add integers with the same sign, so adding two positive numbers together, or you can add integers with different signs, so adding a positive with a negative or a negative with a positive. We're going to explore the rules for both. What you should have been given, or is attached to your work plan, is something that looks sort of like this. Remember, the rules for these foldables is you want to cut on the dotted lines and then you want to fold on the solid lines. So go ahead and cut this out and make sure it looks something like this. I encourage you to take the notes on the inside before you glue it down. So you're going to take the notes in here, and then you're going to turn it over, put the glue here, and then glue it into your notebook. Okay? So just a little FYI. Alright, so let's jump on in and start taking notes. So the rules for same signs, if you're adding two positives or you're adding two negatives. The first thing you're going to do is find the sum of the absolute values of the numbers. So if we're looking at positive 4 and positive 8, well, we all know that 4 plus 8 is 12, but if you were to follow the rules, they work for any of the same signs. So we have the absolute value of 4 is 4, the absolute value of 8 is 8. And so when you add 4 and 8 together, that gives me 12. The second rule is keep the sign. So because both of these numbers are positive, that's going to give me a positive answer. The second example works exactly the same way. You're going to find the sum of the absolute values of the numbers, and then you're going to look at the signs of the numbers, and the sum or answer is going to take the sign of the two numbers you're adding together. So we have two negatives. So the absolute value of negative 3 is 3. The absolute value of negative 7 is 7. When you add 3 and 7 together, that gives me 10. But you look over here and you say, but wait a second, that says negative 10. Well, remember your second rule. Keep the sign of the add-ins. So negative 3, negative 7, both of those are negative. Therefore, my answer is also going to be negative. We're going to do many examples in class, so if you need some reinforcement there before you start your practice, just let me know. I'm going to move on. Again, if you need to stop and pause so you can write everything down, go ahead and do that. So if we're adding different signs, so we have two numbers that have different signs, so a positive plus a negative or a negative plus a positive. Again, first rule is a little different, but it's kind of the same idea, so we're going to find the difference this time though. Difference of the absolute values. Meaning, we're going to find how far they are from each other on a number line. So if we have positive 4, the absolute value of positive 4 is 4. And then we have the absolute value of negative 7. So the absolute value of negative 7 is 7. So we're looking at 4 and 7 on a number line. If we have 4 and 7 on a number line, the space in between is what we're actually looking at, the difference, and that is 3. If I were to start at 4 and count over to 7 on a number line, that's going to have 3 spaces in between. So we know the number's 3. Then the second rule says use the sign of the larger absolute value for the sign of the answer. So we're looking at which has a larger absolute value. Is it 4 or is it negative 7? Well, we just calculated the absolute values, and we know that negative 7 is further from 0. So therefore, it has a greater absolute value. So because negative 7 has a greater absolute value, the sign of the answer is going to be negative. So the difference in the two numbers, the difference in the absolute values, which was 3, and then because -7 has a greater absolute value, the answer, or the sum, is going to be negative. Okay, let's look at another example. So we have -3 and +6. Well, the absolute value of -3 is 3. The absolute value of 6 is 6. The difference between the two numbers, if I started at 3 and counted over to 6 on a number line, that gives me 3. Okay, then I look at the two numbers. Whichever one has a larger absolute value, that's the sign the number is going to take, the answer is going to take. So 6 has a greater absolute value because it's further from 0. So therefore, 3 is going to remain positive. Okay, so again, we're going to do many examples. If you have questions, come see me or ask a buddy. At the bottom of the sheet, I would like you to write down words that indicate addition. So, some different words that indicate addition or that you're working with a positive number. We kind of put those together. So, we have sum, we have plus, we have add, we have total, more or more than, increase or increased by, kind of means addition, raise, combined and all together, additional, both. If you're thinking about money and you go to the bank and you deposit money, that's putting money into the bank. That's going to increase the value of the money that you have in the bank. So deposit is a positive word or indicates addition. Gain. So if you're thinking about football and you gain yardage, that's yardage toward your goal. So therefore, it's a positive number. If you, on a number line, on a horizontal number line, if you move right, that's a positive or that's addition. And then if you move up on a vertical number line, that's also indicating a positive or addition. If these are just the words that we've come up with now, if throughout the unit you think of other words, please come back and add them to the list. On the other side here, I'm going to go ahead and direct you to start working on or going back into Edmodo and finding the two videos and start working on these two different models that we have. So we have a chip model and we have a number line model. If you want to go ahead and split your paper in half, and you're going to take notes on both of these videos. So things that you really find as important. And we're going to talk about these two different models in class after you take the notes and you work on it a little bit. So go ahead, go back to Edmodo, find these two different videos, take notes, and I will address any questions you might have in class.